upper-middle-class household in Memphis, Tennessee. Since I was a teenager, I'd been wrestling with being white and Southern. Then I moved to New York and Silicon Valley and learned racism was unfortunately not just in the South. A tech CEO I coached was active in the BLM movement after the murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. But he didn't need to fly to Missouri to fight racism. There was plenty of that in California. Bias, prejudice, bullying, discrimination, harassment, and physical assault weren't things that happened to other people. I'd personally experienced all of these throughout my career. Given these experiences, how was it possible that I had written a book about management that barely touched on what causes the worst management train wrecks? Freud calls this kind of knowledge knowing without knowing. Lindsay McGoey and others call this strategic ignorance. Charles Mills has written about epistemologies of ignorance. Michelle's Radical Candor on Radical Candor helped me break through that kind of hazy knowing not knowing so that I could analyze problems clearly enough to begin to develop a framework that might help me, and hopefully you too, figure out what to do when we notice them. Too often in my career, I have not said or done anything about these problems either because I refused to notice them or because I didn't know what to say or do. It wasn't Michelle's job to educate me, so I'm grateful to her for doing so. This book is my effort to pay it forward. It will offer a framework that helps us all recognize the different ways that bias, prejudice, and bullying interfere with our ability to work together and what to do to get back on track. It will also examine the ways they enter our management systems, creating even more intractable problems. It will also offer some design principles that will allow us to create better management systems. The goal is not simply to describe the problems, but to figure out what to do about fixing them. Awareness is the first step to change, but awareness without action quickly breeds despair. Unless we figure out the next step to take, we'll retreat into denial. Oedipus gouged his eyes out after he realized he'd committed crimes he was ashamed of. This violent depiction of the denial that comes before coming to grips with our own misdeeds, be they intentional or not, is a kind of denial complex. If we are willing to notice problems rather than retreating to denial, we can fix them, a much better response than gouging our own eyes out. This book doesn't promise to fix everything. What it offers are some practical, tactical suggestions that will help us start putting more wins on the board so that we can keep moving forward, so that we don't retreat back into denial. You can use this book to figure out what you can do to improve your own situation and build a better culture where you work. Of course, your degrees of freedom are different depending on your role or roles. Often, we are in 2 or more roles at once: leader, upstander, observer, person harmed, or person causing harm. Some key questions it addresses. What must leaders do to prevent bias, prejudice, and bullying from destroying respect and collaboration on their teams? How can we make sure we are upstanders and not silent bystanders when we observe bias, prejudice, and bullying affecting colleagues? When we are the person harmed by bias, prejudice, and bullying, how can we choose a response that will help us maintain personal agency? What can we do when we realize that we have caused harm? How can we come to grips with the fact that we all have our own biases and prejudices, and most of us bully others at least occasionally? If we want to do better in the future, we need to adopt a growth mindset about our own problematic attitudes and behaviors. As my son's baseball coach told his team, you can't do right if you don't know what you're doing wrong. How can we design our management systems to minimize rather than reinforce these problems? When organizations layer power on top of bias, prejudice, and bullying, the result is discrimination, harassment, and physical violations. If leaders don't design management systems for justice, the result is predictable: systemic injustice. And if you are not a leader, how can you navigate your career so you minimize the damage that unfair, inequitable systems